I had a conversation a few days ago with a good friend of mine who's a pastor and one of the leaders at my church. And we were talking about a lot of things, but one of the things that really popped out, one of the overarching themes of the conversation was purpose. And not only purpose, but also how you fulfill your purpose. Because multiple people can have the same calling. Multiple people can have the same purpose, but do it in different ways. And so do you want to, I don't know, do you want to be an entrepreneur? So let's say your purpose, your calling is you just want to serve the community. That can mean so many different things, right? Do you want to be a pastor? Do you want to be a firefighter? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to start a nonprofit? What do you want to do? How are you going to serve the community? And then even deeper in that, what kind of public service guy do I want to be? Do I want to be a firefighter? Do I want to be a cop? Do I want to be an EMT? What do I want to do? And so we went through a few different things, and one of the verses that came up was Nehemiah 4:14, which I will read to you in just 1 second. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome and fights for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. And so you can take a few different things from that, but ultimately it's telling you not to worry. Because worry, anxiousness, overwhelm is very, very, very common in our world nowadays. And it really holds you back from achieving your goals. It holds you back from serving your purpose or serving your calling or being the person you want to be, whether that's in your relationship, whether that's in your spirituality, whether that's in your mental health, whether that's in your physical health, whether that's in your career, any aspect of life. If you don't trust God, you will be held back. And so we spoke about 4 different aspects of life: spiritual, physical, mental, and relational. And in order to be at your peak performance in life, you need to have a healthy level of each one of these. Spiritual means you're in touch with yourself. And if you're religious or you're spiritual, you have a relationship with God. You are praying or you are serving or whatever that might look like to you. I think another key point that's been brought up this past week in a different group, a different conversation was, we're not here to pray and to read the Bible and to put our hand up at church, right? That's not how we serve. There are people dying around the world. And the way we serve is by helping them. How are we actually making a difference? Because I'm telling you what, putting your hand up is all fine and dandy, and I'm not against it. But what is it actually doing? What is it actually doing, right? And so that's spiritual. Physical is, are you taking care of yourself? Are you taking care of your space, your physical surrounding? Are you taking care so that your mental is on point? Because they all go into one another. And so again, the next one is mental. Mental, to me, is mental health. And there are things that are sometimes not going to be entirely controllable. But at the same time, you can always impact your own mental health. It's always in your hands to an extent. You can always go to the gym, which will help your mental health. You can always go on a walk. You can always journal. You can always meditate. You can always do so many different things, which, again, they go hand in hand with spiritual and physical. And so the next one is relational. And that is one of the most important ones, in my opinion. And I mean, they're all very, 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 very important. But relational is extremely important. Why? Because without relationships, we're alone, right? And so if you're alone, you know what I say, you become the sum of the 5 people around you. So if you're alone, what are you going to become? You're only going to become what you know, which is just yourself, or maybe you're watching TV or whatever. You're not going to become those people, right? So you need these people around you to help keep you going forward, to help push you to your next level. And so another thing that came up in that conversation was introverts and extroverts. And my personal opinion, and now I could be wrong, but speaking from experience, is introverts, I don't know if they're truly introverts or if they have some sort of anxiety or they're afraid to be themselves because of previous experiences, whether it's in their childhood or how they grew up, or even recently they had a breakup that kind of hurt them and now they're an introvert and they used to be an extrovert, right? And so again, I could be wrong, but the reason I say that is because growing up, I had very, very poor mental health and spoke to no one. I mean, I had terrible, terrible social anxiety. But now I'm a public speaker. Now I'm an author. Now I'm a podcaster. Now I'm a content creator. Now I'm an entrepreneur, right? And so now I am an extrovert and I love being an extrovert. But, there's still that small part of me that is like, man, I just want to stay home and, have a relaxing evening, right? And by the way, that's totally okay sometimes. And in fact, you should do that sometimes, because if you don't, then you're going to have times where you go out and you aren't representing your best self. So the balance of the two. But ultimately, that is my opinion on being an introvert. Another thing, and the last thing that was brought up, was an acronym that I really, really liked, and it was RAFT, like a boat, right? And you can think about that like a raft. Jesus is your raft, is your life raft, right? You fall out of an airplane, but Jesus is there saving you because he's your raft, right? But what RAFT stands for, and it's with 2 T's, not one, RAFTT. R is reliable. Reliable, what does that mean to you? To me, reliable means, man, I can trust this person. I can depend on this person. When this person says, hey, I'll meet you at 5 at X, Y, and Z, 123 Main Street, he's going to be there at 5. When he says, man, I'll get that done for you, he's going to get that done. When he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. The next one is A. And A means availability. What does availability mean to you? It really means a few different things. And we were more on the surface, right? We were talking about, are you physically available with your time? But I think also that if you're not emotionally available, if you're not mentally available, if you're not spiritually available, then you will be held back. Because if you're not emotionally available, you will always be holding that in, which will always keep you depressed and held back. If you're never physically available, then you're not going to have relationships, right? Going back to the relational. If you're never available just with your time, then you're going to be lonely. You're not going to have relationships. And so the next one, F, is faithful. Do you have the ability to not see something, but then to be able to realize, hey, I don't see this, but I believe in it? Because that's what Jesus is, right? And really, it's faithful. I mean, whether you're a Christian or not, if you're an entrepreneur, or really if you're just a human being with ambition, you are faithful. You have to be faithful, because let's say in business, right? I'm building my business. I know where I want to be, and I'm taking action every day to get there. But I'm not going to get there tomorrow. I'm not going to get there next week. I'm not going to get there 10 years from now. I'm going to get there in 50 years, right? Or 70 years, or whatever, however long it takes. Maybe I don't even get there. Maybe it's my next generation or their next generation, right? And so that's being faithful. And in a spiritual sense, faithful just means the same thing. I trust in God. I know God is all powerful, almighty, all knowing. And so I am going to dedicate my life to Jesus Christ, our Savior. Right. And so I don't see him. I hear him when I'm talking to him, but I never see him. I never actually hear a physical voice. Right. But I'm faithful. I believe, and I will abide by that belief. Right. And the next one is teachable. T for teachable. Teachable, I think, is, again, one of the most important things you can be, because, again, as an entrepreneur, as a Christian, whether you are or not a Christian, teachable. You have to be teachable so that you can improve. Because imagine, it. So let me bring this up. One of the quotes he brought up was, he said, once you think you know everything, then you're lost. And the more, it's funny because the more you know, the more you know, the more you realize what you don't know, how much you don't know. So oftentimes my belief is those who know the least think they know the most. And I know that I've experienced that myself. So you always have to be teachable. You have to be able to learn, or you will never develop, because how can you? I'm here, right? I'm here, and my goal is here. But to me, I'm not teachable. I can't go past here because I'm not willing to learn. So I'm not willing to get past here. And so that's what teachable is. Then the second T, trustworthy. Again, trustworthy, in my opinion, it goes hand in hand with reliable, right? But trustworthy can mean an array of different things. And so to me, the number one thing that I think of is, again, can you trust them? Can they say something and you really believe, yes, they're going to do that? 100%. I trust them. 100%. Leave it. Done. Boom. That's it. They're not gonna try and screw me over. They're not gonna forget about doing it. They're gonna do it. So again, it goes back hand in hand with reliability. The difference between reliability and trustworthiness, to me, is I believe that trustworthiness. I believe that you can be reliable without being trustworthy, because I believe that you can do the thing that you said you're going to do, but maybe do it in the back of your mind, have something, I'm going to do it because I'm going to ultimately screw him over or something like that, right? And so that becomes reliable. He did the thing, but not trustworthy. And so RAFTT, those are 5 concepts, 5 traits that you want to abide by: reliable, availability, faithful, teachable, and trustworthy. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to drop a comment. Feel free to share the episode. That's the most important thing you can do, is share this episode with someone else you can take value. You can improve their lives by listening to this episode. I thank you guys so much for listening, and have a blessed week.